Empty airport, empty skies. We're here at Guernsey Airport to talk to the new CEO of Aurigny about the pandemic, the business and much, much more. I'm Will Green, reporting for the Guernsey Press.
I entered aviation around about 2000 or so. Worked in full service aviation firstly for state-owned carriers, South African Airways. Thereafter I started a low-cost carrier operating 737-800 aircraft in South Africa, a typical point-to-point low-cost operation. From there I for some time took over the reins at South African Airways, being an integrated group with both in a full service carrier, low-cost carrier, maintenance division. I then served on the CEO board of CEOs for Star Alliance, worked with Fastjet, the London-listed low-cost carrier, holder of different airlines in Africa. Worked there for 3 or 4 years, moved back to Mango Airlines, and now joining Aurigny. So my experience really spreads low-cost carrier aviation, full-service aviation, and regional feeder carriers.
And what experience of that? It sounds like you've got an awful lot of experience, a great breadth of experience. What are the key things that you're going to bring to Aurigny?
Look, I think that an airline like Aurigny is always confronted with the kind of dual mandate. You know, is it a commercial beast? Is it a social obligation beast? And you need to try and balance those objectives. So firstly, I don't come from the school of thought that says that low-cost carriers or carriers that are owned by the state cannot be efficient, cannot be profitable. There is a way to balance profitability and social obligation. So that's going to be one of my key focus areas. It's something that I've had to grapple with for years throughout my career. At the moment I advise a Central Asian government in terms of their state-owned company. So achieving that balance between profitability and social obligation. Efficiency, low-cost carrier operations is in my DNA. So efficiency is a key aspiration and almost an ethic in a sense. Customer centricity, making sure that we deliver what we need to our community of passengers, our guests on board our aircraft.
So do you foresee it being a profit maker or an economic enabler?
I think it serves both. It needs to have an economic return. It needs to be financially sustainable. So therefore, it cannot generate deep losses indefinitely. No business can. So in order for it to be an economic enabler, it needs to be financially sustainable. So we need to achieve a break-even in this business. There needs to be a path towards a break-even, so to be financially sustainable, and therefore then can enable the economy and the community that we serve. Aviation is a known and well-proven economic enabler. It creates high-value jobs. It stands at the core of value chains. And I think that this period of COVID, this pandemic, has actually proven the value and worth and need for airlines as connectors of people and as lifeline support infrastructure.
And talking about that recovery, hopefully next year or the year after, how do you foresee Aurigny's network? Do you see it expanding back to what it was before the pandemic, or perhaps focusing on some core routes, or expanding perhaps? Yeah.
Look, I think there's no doubt that aviation generally is upside down. The laws of aviation is almost in a sense resetting. We've seen $500 billion odd wiped off the top end of airlines. We've seen European airlines having to subsidize their state-owned carriers well in excess of 30 billion euros in the last year. So how the market is going to recover from a massive event such as this is unknown. We're going to have to see what passenger travel patterns will be. I think that the adoption of teleconferencing and alternative means of conducting business will have a lasting effect on demand patterns. So as we emerge out of this pandemic, we'll have to reassess where do passengers want to go. You know, it's airlines, any business exists only because it's got to focus on its passengers. So our passengers will tell us where we have to go, where the demand patterns are. And as an airline, we will then cater for that. And hopefully it will make us a bigger airline, a stronger airline, but very importantly, a profitable and sustainable airline.
So does that mean perhaps some routes won't be operated?
If routes are not financially viable, then you have to evaluate what is the purpose of this route. Does it serve some other economically critical purpose? And if it does, then you may, and that's where this balance is between this dual mandate that we've got. If we were purely a commercial enterprise, then we can ignore certain routes and really don't care about whether or not it's economically important for the island. But we have to balance economic importance and financial viability. So it's a case-by-case assessment in every case.
And the jet is behind us right now. Obviously, Aurigny has a mixed fleet. There could be some efficiencies having a single fleet, an ATR, for example, fleet. What's the future for the jet in particular?
I think that being new to the airlines, relatively new still to the airline, I'd be hesitant to just jump to any form of conclusion. There is no doubt that Aurigny does have a complex fleet, and that adds to its cost structure. But that complexity is driven by very specific needs. For example, servicing Alderney as a destination requires a very specific aircraft type. Now, in as far as the jet is concerned, again, if the jet has got a particular purpose, it's deployed on Gatwick at the moment, it serves slot protection purposes and so forth. We will evaluate those reasons and then make a call. It is not, airlines all too often take a small boy approach to business in the sense of have toys, must play. So you don't start off with the aircraft first, you start off with the network. The network informs what aircraft are best suited to serve that particular network. So the jet and the whole fleet is open for review, fit for purpose assessment, and then we'll make calls from there.
And obviously you've come to Guernsey. What attracts you to work for Aurigny, and how are you finding Guernsey? You've been here about 8 weeks, is that right?
Yeah, indeed. Look, I think that we live in a wonderful world at this point, a very challenging world. So the island of Guernsey offers security and safety unravelled in the world, in my opinion. So I've got a young daughter, and my family just loves being here. The safety environment is something else. It is beautiful. It is central. So all of those things attracted us as a family to this island, and I'm not in the habit of really just picking up my family and moving them from one location to another. So we're in it for the long run. And as far as Aurigny is concerned, Aurigny is a complex, smaller airline, but it's got all the complexities of a large-scale airline. So professionally, it's a challenge for me. I've run airlines ranging in size from 300 employees to 12,000 employees. And what I find, though, is that I do feel at ease, I feel at comfort when it's a smaller scale airline where I know what is happening and we can influence, manage and direct accordingly. So I'm really looking forward to my role at Aurigny.
Just one final quick question. Are you optimistic for the future for Aurigny and indeed Guernsey?
Yes, most definitely. I think that Aurigny's got a lot of things going for it. When I started doing my research on the airline and the island, the one thing that I saw is that the passengers of Aurigny sees Aurigny as their airline. It's Guernsey's airline. And so there's an emotional connection that doesn't come cheap. It's not easy to attain. So I think that's something good to build on. Aurigny is filled with passionate people. People who don't want to work for a loss-making airline, who want to make an airline profitable, who wants to be customer-focused. The states have provided tremendous support to the airline during this difficult period of the pandemic. So we've got all the building blocks to build a good, strong carrier that makes a difference to the community it serves.
Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Great. Thanks, Will.
Thank you.